No man thinks more highly than I do of patriotism, as well as abilities of the very worthy people who have addressed their local Senate and House and their representatives. But different people often see the same subject in different lights, and therefore, I hope it will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do opinions of character very opposite to theirs, I shall speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question here is at this one awful moment to this country. For my own part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. And in proportion to the magnitude of the subject, ought to be the freedom of debate. It is only in this way that we can hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which we hold to God and our country. Should I keep back my opinion at such a time through fear of giving offense? I should consider myself guilty of treason towards my country and an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, which I revere above all earthly kings. My fellow Americans, it is natural for a person to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth and listen to the song of that siren until she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes see not and having ears hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I'm willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst and provide for it. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is a lamp of experience. I know no way of judging of the future but by the past. And by judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of those in the Senate, those in the House, the UN and globalist ambassadors for the last 10 years to justify those hopes which so many people have been pleased to solace themselves through the media. Is it that insidious smile where they receive your petition? Don't trust it. It will prove to be a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourself how this gracious reception of your petitions and grievances comport with those warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are the fleets and armies of the UN necessary to execute a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love and our devotion? Let us not deceive ourselves. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. So I ask you, what this martial array that they are bringing upon, if the purpose is not to force us into submission, then what is it? Can anyone assign another possible motive? Has the UN any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of their navies, their people, their armies? No, they do not. They're meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the UN, the globalists, and the corporations have been doing for so long. They've been forging them. And what do we have to oppose them? Shall we try to argue with them? Because we've been trying to do that for decades. Do we have anything new to offer on the subject? Absolutely nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable, but it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not been already exhausted? Do not deceive yourself. We have done everything that could be done to avoid and avert the storm which is now coming on. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before their thrones and have implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of those that lie in seats of power within our nation. Our petitions and grievances have been slighted. Our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult. Our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of their throne. Oh, Pelosi. In vain, after these things, we may indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve, inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we've been so long engaged and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contents shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left to us. They tell us we are weak, unable to cope with such a formidable adversary. But then I ask, when will we be stronger? Will it be next week, next year? Will it be when we're totally disarmed and the UN Guard is stationed in every house? Should we gather strength by resolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? We are not weak if we make proper use of those means which God of nature hath placed in our power. The millions of people armed in the holy cause of liberty and in such a country as that which we possess are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle is not to the strong alone. It's to the vigilant, the active, the brave. And besides, we don't even have an election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There's no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat, let it come. It is in vain to extenuate the matter. People may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand here idly? What is it that you wish? What would they have? Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Every single nation across this planet has been tested on for various things. They could be medical, they could be technical, they could be societal, they could be psychological. Everyone is basically a subject. And now while everyone's freaking out about this agreement with the WHO, I urge you to remember that the WHO dictated all our policies already. That the WHO was giving directions to the whole world already. How? Through the CDC, who are unelected officials that have no say in anything, that are simply employees that we pay. Therefore, that's already happened. They're just sealing the deal. They're sealing the deal for something that already happened so that it can be public. It's all a damn show. And right now, what you are seeing is what I said back in 2015. This is a civilized revolution. Evil, when shown to all, when you're at the wire, when your face is eating dirt, when you realize that your hands are tied to your feet, that you are hog-tied, that every single chip is stacked against you, and yet you stand. You can't help but thank the architect for giving you that chance. People should have more faith in humanity. People should have more faith in people. Because unfortunately, we're in a revolution, and the problem is not the enemy, which are those that seek to control the people, but the actual people themselves that are experts in telling you who's wrong and who's right, while they're inertly sitting by, letting everything happen, opining from whatever throne they wish to sit. The world needs to have faith in humanity, even though we don't want to, because it's not something that we can see. We can't see it. Again, I've seen it. I've seen a future in another line, another timeline, that if 9/11 didn't happen, this that is coming up would have happened earlier with an outbreak of a civil war in 2005 with a lot of blood on everyone's hands. This one is a civilized revolution. What they have done now is cause this revolution. Aristotle, fantastic philosopher, actually defined the term tyranny. And tyranny comes to existence by power of force. And all the consequences of tyranny are detrimental. Tyrants use their power to suppress the people and evoke fear among people. The reason they are doing this to President Trump is so none of you get the idea that you can run for president. Oh, you could be a president if you want to. No, not unless you're casted for the role and you're part of our group. It's a tight clique and you're not in it. When there's no check and balance that is present in society, oppression arises, and this affects the country. Injustice is social evil. We are being deprived of our legal rights, our innate rights to vote. We have the right to vote, but that hasn't happened since the year 2000, and you could take that to the bank. And in these conditions, every single person is miserable. Miserable. We have seen racial tyranny, gender tyranny, sex tyranny, class tyranny, religious tyranny. The Constitution is supposed to play a significant role in protecting the people. It's supposed to offer checks and balances. It's supposed to offer federalism and the separation of powers. Our Constitution has been diluted and has been demonstrated in such a way, pissed all over. They burned that down in the name of tyranny. And when tyranny becomes law, well, rebellion actually becomes a duty. They haven't even seen the revolution yet. We've just come to the peak of it. It's, like I said in 2015, the civilized revolution. It's the people against the oligarchs, the people that are sitting there telling you what. Now, while most of you think that the Republicans, because unfortunately for me, if I was advising the president directly, I would have said, get rid of the GOP. Starve them. Tell the people that they are a uniparty, which you have already done. Remove every single ounce of power they have and drop this nation into pure and utter controlled chaos where the politicians will say, no, we can't. We can't survive. The GOP would have zero money. The Democrats would have zero money. We have Democrats that are begging to have President Trump back because they felt safer. Their gas wasn't expensive. And they felt like all of this is happening to make sure he's not on the ballot. I guess maybe that's the guy we want. This is exactly what President Trump should have done a few months ago. He should have endorsed people independent from the GOP. It'll happen. Better late than never. But the thing is, right now we have a monstrous machine of polarity. Democrat, Republican. You don't vote for any parties, you vote for the people that can fix it. See, this is good advice. Advice is they want chaos. Give them chaos. Give them actual chaos that is in the hands of the people, not the hands of their own. Imagine if President Trump a few months ago came out and said, well, don't give a dime to the GOP, don't give a dime to the DNC. You support these candidates that I will endorse or not. Just you pick your candidates. We need real Americans here, and those parties are not going to support them. So get out there, guys, and support the people that are for the people. See, if he had actual good advisors, that would have been said. No party. The people that you elect are supposed to represent you. The world needs to have faith in humanity, even though we don't want to, because it's not something that we can see, okay? We can't see it. Again, I've seen it. I've seen a future in another line, another timeline, that if 9/11 didn't happen, this that is coming up would have happened earlier with an outbreak of a civil war in 2005 with a lot of blood on everyone's hands. This one is a civilized revolution. And I know God has got this, and he's stepping in when he has to, because people need to see it. Just like President Trump. Oh, he released everything to him years ago. Stood in the gap to make sure to cover for everyone. Like he said, they're not after him. They're after you. And he's breaking it all down. They will indict President Trump, and he will not be convicted. But they will indict him in order to fill the news with that discussion rather than the things that are happening on the other end. They are going to indict President Trump, and I told you why already. Will they get a conviction? No. I'm literally on the defense team. literally. We have been building a defense for forever. And even with my friends, friendships are forged through fire too. When you know that you've come out on the other end of that fire, not burnt, you realize just how strong you are. And it's very important to understand that. And this is because if you keep God as a constant, nothing can stop what's coming. This is a civilized revolution.